Hey guys, Angel here with the Bullish Bears team. I am making this video today on the trend is your friend, which sounds pretty self-explanatory if you think about it, because obviously that's a good thing. So why is the trend your friend? Well, you can see that I have the S&P futures pulled up and that it has been in a strong uptrend for quite some time. So what does that mean exactly? It means that obviously price has been moving up. We can see like from the lowest point that it was back in 2016 where it was at $1,821.53 that it has been on an uptrend, and even though we've had a bit of a crazy time lately, it's still higher than it was. So it's still in an uptrend. And what do those trend lines represent? They do represent pretty strong levels of support and resistance. And we know as traders how important support and resistance is, and that it's important to pay attention to. And you can even see that the price has tested it a couple of times here, 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 and then up here, and then down here where it did break out a little bit. So what would happen if the stock broke out of an uptrend and then continued to trend down? That means that it would be the beginning of a new trend, and that can change the way that you trade. But you can even see, even with all this craziness, and you can kind of see here, I can zoom in a little bit, but you can see even with all that craziness and those yucky candlesticks, that it was still in an uptrend. And sometimes we forget that, and it's important to remember that it doesn't matter really. It does matter, especially whenever you're day trading or swing trading. It's a lot harder to swing trade when there's not a defined trend, but if you look at the big picture, it was still in an uptrend. So if you're long-term investing, then you know it's kind of going to be okay. And even if you're swing trading or day trading, you want to trade the patterns and the candlesticks as opposed to just like the trend. So it all goes hand in hand, and it's important to learn everything you need to learn to implement all of that together. You can't just pick one thing and focus on that. Like if I was a trend trader and I'm like, I'm just going to trade a trend, you can see that even though it's been in an uptrend, it has tested, and there have been other patterns, and you can see this double top, or also could be considered an inverted cup and handle, even though it didn't really fall and instead reversed. So there are patterns within patterns which causes it to break down. You can see that it was a symmetrical triangle in this area here, which meant that it was neutral. So even though it was in an uptrend, it was in a neutral pattern, which made it really difficult to trade. And then you can see here, actually recently, it broke down out of this trend line. So it tested support and failed, and everybody thought that the end of the world was coming. It was kind of funny. Not really, but if you paid attention to the patterns and whatnot, then you could have made some really great money taking the bearish side of things. That's why it's important to not only learn how to play the bullish side, but also the bearish side. So put options or shorting or anything like that, you could have made a lot of money. And you can see even as it was going down, it did break out, but it didn't stay out of it for very long. Instead, it is going back up. And if we zoom in, it is trading back inside the uptrend, and it could continue to head up. It looks right now like it's forming in inverse head and shoulders. You can see left shoulder, head. We could see the beginning of a right shoulder forming. If that happens and the pattern holds up, that's a bullish pattern, and it could reverse, which means it would go back up and kind of stay within this uptrend. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. But it is important to remember that there are patterns within these trends which can cause it to trade a little bit differently. So even if we're in an uptrend, there could be a bullish or a bearish pattern which causes it to trade down. You can see here we're in an uptrend. We hit all-time highs. We traded sideways. There was that death cross, which let you know, if you know anything about moving average crossovers, that death cross happened at this doji candlestick, and look what it did the next day. It tanked. So if you saw that and you were swing trading, you could be like, oh man, I gotta get out. So you have to pay attention to things like that. And if you had saw that, you could have protected your investments a little bit. But you can see the bear flag, and then it did head down, but it was a bear flag forming a potential bullish pattern, which means it could end up going back up. So all of this goes hand in hand, and it's really important to learn everything and not just focus on one thing. So we're looking at the S&P futures, which has been in an uptrend. So let us look at my favorite stock, Nvidia, which has also been in an uptrend. You might look at this and be like, what? How do you do that? How do you make it look like it's in an uptrend like that? But you have to look, you have to be really good at drawing trend lines, I guess, which I believe they offer in the members only videos, a video on how to draw trend lines. And you can see here that it has been in an uptrend. It did break out of that uptrend, and it could also be forming an inverse head and shoulders, but we shall see. I think I might have maybe drawn this trend line really badly, really badly. So maybe we'll ignore my terrible trend line drawing here. That's why you have to learn, because if you don't learn the proper trend lines, you could end up making bad trades. But you can see here, this also had a death cross, and it took like a couple of days before it really tanked, but then it tanked, and it looks like it is forming an inverse head and shoulders again. So that's, you can see how it's running with the market. It's almost forming the exact same pattern. We'll see what happens. Let's see, I think GE was another one. Yes, this one has been in a downtrend. So we were seeing some uptrends, but this has been in a downtrend. And you can see it did kind of break out of this trend a little bit, but came back down, and it has continued. And you can see how it uses these trend lines as angular support and resistance. And that's really important to remember when you're using the trend to trade, is that it forms support and resistance. And we know as traders how important that is. So if it breaks above or below support or resistance, that is pretty telling. And even in all this craziness with the market, this stock has not, in fact, broken out of this downtrend yet. It tested to see if it could maybe go up and change a direction, and it could not. So it's still in a downtrend, and we'll see what it continues to do. Let's take a look at Facebook. Now, I have not drawn any sort of trend lines for this, and this one is a little difficult because, as you can see, it was a rising wedge pattern, and then they had all that issue with the hacking and stuff like that, so it just tanked, and apparently earnings were not very good, and it has been going down. So how could you draw a trend line for this? I honestly could not even tell you, because it's so funky. So this is something where you have to play maybe not long-term trends, but shorter term trends. You can see that it has been trending downward, and look at where it is within these moving averages and whatnot, because they say all gaps must fill. So you can see that this gap here and here, so you can see it started to try and fill it, and it couldn't, and it rejected. Eventually it's gonna have to go up. I mean, in a perfect world, but it may take years, it may take months to do that, to go up and fill it. We don't know. We'll see how it trades in regards to these moving averages. So that might not have been the best example, because it was such an interesting, you can see that it was in an uptrend for a while, then it made this rising wedge pattern, and then boom, fell out of it, because obviously that's an important thing to remember, that news affects markets. And Facebook had some pretty bad news around that time. Mark Zuckerberg got called in front of Congress, and it tanked, and it has never really quite recovered since then. Let's take a look at Apple. Is it AAPL or AAPL? I always get confused with that. I can't ever remember. So we'll just, instead of going so far out, we'll try to connect like the peaks of these to help define the trend. When you're drawing trend lines, it helps to connect the peaks. All right, so you can see that Apple has been in an uptrend for a while. And if you zoom in, you can see that it has tested this angular support and resistance. So if the one thing you take away from this video is this, it is that trends provide angular support and resistance, and it's incredibly important to pay attention to that. So it tested this angular support here and here and didn't break, and it continued to move up, and it is heading back down, but you see that it's got all these moving averages to contend with. And moving averages can be an important part of trading because when price moves away from them, they're always going to gravitate back towards them because they provide equilibrium. And they also, the crossovers and whatnot, provide buy and sell signals. So you can see that anytime price got away from it, it came back to it. If it got away from it down here, it came back to it and headed up. So you have to be able to draw your trend lines. You have to be able to spot those patterns within those trend lines because that can change the way you trade. And that's a really, really good thing to know because obviously what is the goal of trading? It's to make money. But is that going to be 100% sure all the time? No. I wish it was. That would be pretty cool. But obviously there are things within these trend lines that cause it to move up and down, and why we stress the importance of patterns, stress the importance of candlesticks, and stress the importance of support and resistance. It's sort of like, let me think of an example here. Look, my favorite, I love sports. I'm a huge sports fan. All Boston sports is my favorite. I love Boston sports. So it'd be like the Patriots. I love them. Tom Brady is just the greatest quarterback of all time. But like this year, they've been really frustrating. So while they're trending in an uptrend, it looks like, with their record of 7-2, they have been up and down, and some of those wins have been really frustrating to watch, and it hasn't felt like a win because obviously Boston sports fans are spoiled. So if they don't blow a team out and hold them to 0, we're just not happy. But you can see that even though they're in an uptrend, their patterns have them up and down, and it's really frustrating. And that can be trend trading sometimes where, hello, it's in an uptrend, shouldn't it be going up? But it's still up and down. So I know I say it over and over, and I might sound like a broken record, but if you don't get support and resistance patterns and candlesticks, then you're going to have a very difficult time trading. So if you want to come over here to our About page, bullishbears.com, you can take our courses, take our candlesticks courses, take our day trading, swing trading courses. This advanced candlestick course is the patterns course. You're going to learn all these patterns that you need to know because it's going to help you trade. And there is going to be a blog post on the Trend is Your Friend. It's written, it just hasn't been posted yet. So if we post this video before the blog post has been published, then there will be a blog post that you can check out in regards and learn more about why the trend is your friend. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then you should like, share, and subscribe. That way you get notified anytime there's a video posted. I'll be making some more watch list videos. I know the guys are making options videos, and there's going to be all kinds of content for you guys to learn. And we would love to have you come join the Bullish Bears. It's a great community. We have a lot of fun. The social media memes that they post are fun. It's pretty great, and I would love it if you guys came over and joined us at the Bullish Bears. Hope y'all enjoyed, and I will see y'all later.